Good morning, welcome to CATEX-TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Tuesday, September 29th, 2009. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time in the U.S. It's 4:30 p.m. in London, 12:30 p.m. in Bermuda, and in Mexico City it's 10:30 in the morning. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL Instant Mail address is CATEX-TV. We've got a breaking story, actually, that is on the front page of this morning's Washington Post. The headline is, U.S. aims to isolate Iran if talks fail. Subheadline is, Sanctions would disrupt global trade. It's written by Glenn Kessler. I'm going to read the appropriate paragraphs. The U.S. is laying plans to cut Iran's economic links to the rest of the world if talks this week that are going to be held in Germany over Iran's nuclear ambitions founder. Officials stress that they hope Iran will agree to open its nuclear inspection program. They are prepared to, by year's end, make it increasingly difficult for Iranian companies to ship goods around the world. The Obama administration is targeting, in particular, the insurance and reinsurance companies that underwrite the risk of such transactions. In the case of the insurance industry, the administration would extend a prohibition against providing, quote, the transfer of financial resources or services, unquote, to aid Iran's nuclear and missile programs that's currently codified in UN Security Council Resolution 1737. The administration wants to extend that to include insurance companies, export credits, and the like. Already, the government has pressed more than 80 banks around the world to cut their ties to Iran, saying that any cost-benefit analysis would show that the business is not worth the risk of unwittingly assisting groups such as the Revolutionary Guards. The U.S. government has also backed the message up with tough fines against some foreign banks. The Dutch bank ABN AMRO in 2005 agreed to pay $80 million, and Lloyds Bank this year paid a fine of $350 million for secretly channeling Iranian and Sudanese money into the American banking system. Here we go. Insurance, however, is the lifeblood of the shipping industry, but often insuring cargo consists of several layers. One critical aspect is reinsurance, in which an insurance company spreads the risk of a deal to dozens of other companies around the world. If the pool of potential reinsurers for Iranian goods shrinks because of international pressure, shipping would become increasingly difficult and costly for Iran. Last year, as an example of the emerging strategy, the U.S. Treasury designated Iran's national maritime carrier, the Islamic Republic of Iran Shipping Lines, as engaging in deceptive activities, such as changing its ships' names. It warned companies from engaging in any business with the subsidiaries. Officials now expect that the EU would follow suit. If talks with Iran fail to make any progress this year, doing business with the Iranian shipping line would become increasingly difficult for companies such as Lloyds or Munich Re to continue to provide any reinsurance for the Iranian businesses. Here's a quote by a fellow named David Gordon, a former State Department official. The idea of targeting reinsurance is a good one, but it is only a potential game changer. I'm not sure it will be enough to move the Iranians and do it in a timely fashion. The Iranians are very committed to the nuclear program. The reason for all of this, of course, is Iran is the fourth largest exporter of oil in the world. Most of the oil exported from Iran is loaded onto oil tankers, very large crude carriers, and sailed down the Persian Gulf through the Straits of Hormuz. Each of those ships is heavily insured. Each of those ships has many, many syndication members participating in reinsurance. That's where the administration is aiming. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Now to our May news. The typhoon in Southeast Asia is still roaring around. Typhoon Ketsana today roared into central Vietnam and killed at least 23 people. It's got winds of up to 90 miles per hour. 170,000 people were evacuated. Made landfall about 37 miles south of Da Nang this morning. Actually, it was mid-afternoon Vietnam time. 2 people in Quang Nam province were killed by falling trees. The rivers are rising, many homes are flooded, and several mountainous districts have been completely isolated by mudslides. As the storm moves inland toward Laos, 9 people died in the Central Highlands when their house was buried in a mudslide. The damage it did in the Philippines is extraordinary. The death toll is now up to 246 people. Rescuers are pulling more bodies from swollen rivers. 2 new storms are brewing in the Pacific. They're going to hit the Philippines by the end of the week. The government's ordered extra police to be deployed to prevent looting. Huge amounts of aid distribution has been called in. The president of the Philippines, Gloria Arroyo, is very sensitive to criticism that it did not give sufficient warning about the typhoon. It conceded it was overwhelmed, but said it's doing all that it could do. The homes of nearly 2 million people in Manila and surrounding areas have been inundated by the flooding. Nearly 400,000 people have sought shelter in schools, churches, and other evacuation centers. The Philippine government is appealing for international aid, warning they may not have enough resources to withstand 2 new storms that forecasters have spotted east of the Philippines in the Pacific. One could hit the northern Philippines on Saturday, and the other hit next week, although meteorologists are keeping their fingers crossed that those paths will change. In the U.S., down in the lower Mississippi River, a grounded oil tanker is blocking shipping traffic. The tanker is called the Eagle Tucson. It grounded near Pilot Town, Louisiana at 2:45 a.m. this morning. It's got about 14,000 barrels of oil on it. There's no sign of leakage. Other large ships are unable to move through the area. 8 vessels are already backed up waiting to pass, according to the Coast Guard. Well, in the world of scoundrels, we of course have Bernie Madoff and basically everybody else, but the everybody else in this case is Alan Stanford. He's been accused of a fairly ambitious Ponzi scheme emanating from Antigua. Well, Stanford's court-appointed receiver persuaded a U.S. judge to block the accused Ponzi scheme mastermind's bid to access insurance funds that he wanted to reach to pay his lawyers. In a hearing in front of a Lloyd's Chancery Court, a London Chancery Court, his receiver, named Ralph Janvey, said that the Texas financier is trying a blatant attempt to end-run this court by asking the UK court to order the insurer to pay over the receiver's objections. The judge ordered Stanford to withdraw his petition from the London court. The judge in the United States said it appears that Stanford is purporting to seek relief before another tribunal, i.e. England, relating to the policy. Such actions by Stanford violate both the terms of this court's prior orders as well as threaten to interfere with this court's jurisdictions over the policies. The receiver has been fighting the scoundrel's efforts to unlock his frozen assets or access his Lloyd's of London liability insurance, the proceeds of which would be to hire lawyers to defend him against civil and criminal allegations that he swindled investors of more than $7 billion through bogus certificates of deposit at Antigua-based Stanford International Bank. Mr. Stanford is 59 years old. He denies any wrongdoing. He's in jail in Texas awaiting trial on 21 felony charges that mirror civil fraud claims filed by the U.S. SEC. We'll go to a word now from our sponsors and come back with the rest of the news. Well, Reuters is reporting some interesting news this morning. We bring this picture up. This is the iconic picture of Joseph Cassano peering out of his Knightsbridge home. Well, according to Reuters, Mr. Cassano, who's the former head of AIG Financial Products in London, has gone back to the United States, so you won't see this picture anymore. Reuters said that he and his wife, Ellen Hooker, have left the posh home originally leased for him by AIG in Knightsbridge and returned to live in his clapboard house in